It is now 5 years since I first came to ask for your confidence. 5 years like no other in our union's history. I will always remember the spine-tingling moments we shared here together in this hemicycle. From standing, of course, in front of you asking for your confidence 5 years ago, to proposing Next Generation EU, I will never forget the appearance of President Zelensky at the beginning of the Russian war in Ukraine, when even the translators could not hold back their tears. I will never forget the empty chair poignantly left out for Alexei Navalny as his daughter spoke on his behalf, or the moments of silence for those who lost their life in the pandemic. But also the moments of song for the ode of joy or auld lang syne. And I will never forget the last words of David Sassoli calling for a new and united Europe. Honourable members, choices are the hinges of destiny. And in a world full of adversity, Europe's destiny hinges on what we do next. Despite the momentous things we have done and overcome, Europe now faces a clear choice. A choice which will shape our work for the next 5 years, but it will also define our place in the world for the next 50. The choice comes down to whether we will be shaped by events and the world around us, or whether we will come together and build our future for ourselves. And that choice is ours. Europe cannot control dictators and demagogues across the world, but it can choose to protect its own democracy. Europe cannot determine elections across the world, but it can choose to invest in the security and defense of this continent. Europe cannot stop change, but it can choose to embrace it and invest in a new age of prosperity and improving our quality of life. But, honourable members, for us to choose the Europe of tomorrow, we must acknowledge how people feel today. We are in a period of deep anxiety and uncertainty for Europeans. Families are feeling the pain from the cost of living and housing. Young people are concerned about the planet, their future, and the prospect of war. Companies and farmers are feeling squeezed. And all of this is a symptom of a world in which everything is weaponized and contested, where there is a clear attempt to divide and polarize our societies. I am deeply concerned about these trends, but I'm convinced that Europe, a strong Europe, can rise to the challenge. And this is why I'm asking you for your confidence today, because like you, I came into politics to make a difference for all of society, to deliver for the generation of my children and grandchildren, like those who came before us did. And I am convinced that the version of Europe since the end of World War II, with all its imperfections and its inequalities, is still the best version in history. And I will never stand by and watch it be torn apart from the inside or from the outside. I will never let the extreme polarization of our societies become accepted. I will never accept that demagogues and extremists destroy our European way of life. And I stand here today ready to lead the fight with all the democratic forces in this House. And this is the vision I have set out in my political guidelines. A vision of a stronger Europe that delivers prosperity, that protects people, and that defends democracy. A stronger Europe that delivers social fairness and supports people. A stronger Europe that implements what it agrees in a fair way, and that sticks to the targets of the European Green Deal with pragmatism, technology neutrality, and innovation. I have listened carefully to the democratic forces in this Parliament, and I am convinced that these guidelines reflect how much we have in common, despite the differences that are healthy in any democracy. So, honourable members, our first priority will be prosperity and competitiveness. In the last 5 years, we have weathered the fiercest storm in our union's economic history. We have emerged stronger from the shock of lockdowns, and we have overcome an unprecedented energy crisis. We did this together, and I believe we can be proud of it. But we also know that our competitiveness needs a major boost. The fundamentals of the global economy are changing. Those who stand still will fall behind. Those who are not competitive will be dependent. So the race is on, and I want Europe to switch gear. And this starts with making business easier and faster. We need to deepen our single market across the board. We need less reporting, less bureaucracy, more trust, better enforcement, more faster permitting. And I will ensure that we are accountable for this, because only what gets measured gets done. And therefore, I will task each commissioner to deep dive in their portfolio and to deliver concretely on burden reduction. And I will appoint a vice president to coordinate this work and to report on progress to this House once a year. I will introduce a revamped SME and competitiveness check as part of our better regulation toolbox. We all know that there is no Europe without small and medium enterprises. They are the heart of our economy. And therefore, let's get rid of burdensome micromanagement. Let's give them more trust, better incentives. Our SMEs deserve it. Honourable members, prosperity and competitiveness. Let me give you some figures. In the first half of this year, 50% of our electricity generation came from renewables, homegrown and clean. Investments in clean technologies in Europe have more than tripled in this mandate. We attract more investments in clean hydrogen than the United States and China combined. In the last years, we have concluded with global partners 35 new agreements on clean tech, hydrogen, and critical raw materials. This is the European Green Deal in action. So I want to be clear. We will stay the course on our growth strategy and the goals that were set for 2030 and 2050. Our focus will now be on implementation and investment to make it happen on the ground. And this is why I will put forward a new clean industrial deal in the first 100 days of the next mandate. It will channel investment in infrastructure and industry, in particular for energy-intensive sectors. This will help create lead markets in everything from clean steel to clean tech. It will speed up planning, tendering, and permitting. We must be faster and simpler, because Europe is decarbonizing and industrializing at the same time. So our companies need predictability for their investments and their innovation. And yes, they can rely on us. And in this logic, we will enshrine our 90% target for 2040 in our European climate law. Our companies need to plan their investment for the coming decade already today. But this is not only for business, it's also for business, but not only for business. For our young people, the children, the teenagers of today, 2030, 2040, 2050 is just around the corner. They know that we have to reconcile climate protection and a prosperous economy. And they would never forgive us if we do not rise to the challenge. So this is not only a matter of competitiveness, but, honourable members, this is also a matter of intergenerational fairness. The young people deserve that we act on this one. The new Clean Industrial Deal will also help bring down energy bills. We all know that structurally high energy prices hamper our competitiveness. And high energy bills are a major driver of energy poverty of people. I have not forgotten how Putin blackmailed us by cutting us off Russian fossil fuels. But we withstood together. We invested massively in homegrown, cheap renewables. And this enabled us to break free from dirty Russian fossil fuels. Therefore, honourable members, together, we will ensure that the era of dependency from Russian fossil fuels is over, once and for all. Honourable members, Europe needs more investment, be it farming or industry, digital or strategic technologies, but also more investment in people and their skills. This mandate has to be the time of investment. And this starts with completing our capital markets union and mobilizing more private funding. Every year, 300 billion euros of European family savings go from Europe to foreign markets because our capital markets are too fragmented. And then this money is often used to buy innovative European companies from abroad, and the companies leave. This has to change. We need to leverage this enormous wealth to create growth here in Europe. And this is why we will propose a European Savings and Investments Union. European startups should not need to look at the United States or Asia to finance their expansion. They must find what they need to grow right here in Europe. So we need a deep and liquid capital market, and we need a competition policy that supports companies to scale up. Europe must be again the home of opportunity and of innovation. And honourable members, to unleash private investment, we also need public funding. Yes, we have the resources of Next Generation EU and the current budget, but this will come to an end within the next years, while our investment needs will not. Our new budget will be reinforced. We need more investment capacity. It must be more focused on policy, simpler for member states, and more impactful, so that we can use its power to leverage more private and public financing. And I will propose a new European Competitiveness Fund. It will be focused on common and cross-border European projects that will drive competitiveness and innovation, notably to support the Clean Industrial Deal. It will ensure that we develop strategic tech and manufacture right here in Europe, be it AI or clean tech. The future of our prosperity must be made in Europe. That is clear, and this is something we really have to press on, honourable members. Honourable members, we must also invest more in our security and defence. Russia is still on the offensive in eastern Ukraine. They are banking on a war of attrition, on making the next winter even harsher than the last. Russia is banking on Europe and the West going soft, and some in Europe are playing along. 2 weeks ago, a European Union Prime Minister went to Moscow. This so-called peace mission was nothing but an appeasement mission. This was a plain appeasement mission. Only 2 days later, Putin's jets aimed their missiles at a children's hospital and maternity ward in Kyiv. And we all saw the images of children covered with blood. We saw the mothers trying to bring young cancer patients to safety. That strike was not a mistake. It was a message, a chilling message from the Kremlin to all of us. So, honourable members, our answer has to be just as clear. No one wants peace more than the people of Ukraine, a just and lasting peace for a free and independent country. And Europe will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. This is our message. Mesdames et Messieurs les députés, nous devons donner à l'Ukraine tout ce dont elle a besoin pour résister et vaincre. Cela implique des choix fondamentaux pour notre avenir. Pour la première fois depuis des décennies, notre liberté est en danger. Nous sommes responsables pour faire tout ce qui est nécessaire pour protéger nos citoyens européens. Protéger l'Europe, c'est le devoir de l'Europe. Alors, je pense qu'il est temps de construire une véritable Union européenne de la défense. Je sais que certains ne sont peut-être pas à l'aise avec cette idée, mais ce qui devrait nous mettre mal à l'aise, ce sont les menaces qui pèsent sur notre sécurité. Soyons très clairs. La sécurité nationale collective. Mais nous le savons tous, nos dépenses de défense sont trop faibles et inefficaces. Nous dépensons trop à l'étranger et nous devons donc créer un marché unique de la défense. Nous devons investir plus dans les capacités de défense haut de gamme, c'est-à-dire l'Europe doit avancer sur la voie tracée par la déclaration de Versailles. Nous devons investir plus, nous devons investir ensemble et nous devons créer des projets européens communs. Par exemple, un système complet de défense aérienne, a European Air Shield, non seulement pour protéger notre espace aérien, mais aussi comme symbole fort de l'unité de l'Europe en matière de défense. Honourable members, security is not only about external threats. Cyber and hybrid threats are growing. Organized criminal networks are infiltrating our economy. Most of them use corruption. They are causing fear and innocent people's death with their brutal violence. They earn enormous amounts of money from drug trafficking, ransomware, fraud, trafficking in human beings, and they are not limited by national borders. So it's necessary that we respond to this growing threat on a European level. We must make sure that police can work across Europe without borders. That is why I will propose to double Europol's staff and strengthen its mandate. I want Europol to become a truly operational police agency. And we must also do more to secure our external borders. Our eastern border in particular has become a target for hybrid attacks and provocations. Russia is luring migrants from Yemen up north, exploiting their misery and pushing them deliberately against the Finnish border. We should always keep in mind a member state's border is a European border, and we will do everything we can to make them stronger. And this is part of the reason why we must strengthen Frontex, to make it more effective while fully respecting fundamental rights. I will propose to triple the number of European border and coast guards to 30,000. More secure borders will also help us to manage migration in a more structured and fair way. The Migration and Asylum Pact is a huge step forward. We put solidarity at the heart of our common response. Migration challenges need a European response with a fair and firm approach based on our values, always remembering that migrants are human beings like you and me, and all of us. We are protected by human rights. I know that many pessimists thought that migration was too divisive to agree on, but we proved them wrong. Together we made it, and we have emerged stronger from it. Now we must collectively focus on implementation and support member states in making it a reality on the ground, and there will be more to do. We need a common approach on returns to make them more effective and dignified, and we need to develop our comprehensive partnerships, in particular across our southern neighborhood. The Mediterranean region should get undivided attention. And this is why I will appoint a commissioner for the region and propose a new agenda for the Mediterranean together with Kaja Kallas, because the future of those two Mediterranean shores is one and the same. Honourable members, our neighbourhood is home to our future too. Inviting countries into our union is a moral a historical and a political responsibility. It is an enormous geostrategic responsibility for Europe. Because in today's world, a larger union will be a stronger union. It will strengthen our voice in the world. It will help reduce our dependencies. And it will ensure that democracy, prosperity, and stability spread across Europe. We will support candidates by working on investment and reform and integrating them where we can into our legal framework. Accession will always be a merits-based process, and we will ensure that all countries are ready before joining. But completing our union is also in our own core interest, and it will be a core priority for my Commission. I'm deeply convinced history is calling again. The Western Balkans, Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia have made their free choice. They have chosen freedom over oppression. They have chosen democracy over dependency. And some of them are paying a very high price for this choice. So we must do our choice too and show steadfast commitment that their future will be free, will be prosperous, and will be in our European Union. Honourable members, Europe has a responsibility to play an active role in the world, starting in our neighbourhood, and in particular in the Middle East. I want to be very clear. The bloodshed in Gaza must stop now. Too many children, women and civilians have lost their lives as a result of Israel's response to Hamas' brutal terror. The people of Gaza cannot bear anymore, and humanity cannot bear anymore. We need an immediate and enduring ceasefire. We need the release of Israeli hostages, and we need to prepare for the day after. Europe must play its part. We have massively increased our humanitarian aid to almost €200 million in 2024, and we will do more. We are now working on a much larger multi-year package to support an effective Palestinian Authority. The two-state solution is the best way to ensure security for both, to Israelis and Palestinians. And people in the Middle East deserve peace, security and prosperity, and Europe will stand by their side. Meine Damen und Herren Abgeordnete, Europa bietet eine einzigartige Lebensqualität. Von umfassender sozialer Sicherheit bis zu erstklassigen regionalen Lebensmitteln. Rapsfelder, Weinberge, Obstwiesen. Das bedeutet nicht nur gutes Essen und Trinken, sondern sie sind auch ganz konkret Teil unseres Heimatgefühls. Und deshalb ist die Zukunft der Landwirtschaft ein so wichtiges und so sensibles Thema für uns in Europa. Wir müssen es schaffen, die Gegensätze zu überwinden und gemeinsam mit allen Beteiligten gute Lösungen zu finden. Und deswegen habe ich den strategischen Dialog zur Zukunft der Landwirtschaft in Europa ins Leben gerufen. Er bringt Landwirtinnen und Landwirte, Umweltgruppen und Expertinnen aus der gesamten Nahrungsmittelkette an einen Tisch. Ich habe versprochen, gut zuzuhören und von ihnen zu lernen, und das tue ich. Ich werde gute Empfehlungen aufnehmen und eine neue europäische Strategie für unsere Landwirtschaft und den Nahrungsmittelsektor vorlegen. Ich werde mich dafür einsetzen, dass Landwirtinnen und Landwirte ein faires Einkommen haben. Niemand sollte gezwungen sein, gute Lebensmittel unter Produktionskosten zu verkaufen. Wir müssen die Position unserer Landwirtinnen und Landwirte in der Wertschöpfungskette der Ernährungswirtschaft stärken. Und wir brauchen klügere Anreize, mehr Innovation, mehr Zugang zu Kapital. Wer nachhaltig mit Natur- und Artenvielfalt umgeht und dazu beiträgt, den CO2-Haushalt ins Lot zu bringen, der muss angemessen dafür entlohnt werden. Und unsere Landwirtinnen und Landwirte prägen unsere Landschaften. Sie prägen das Gesicht Europas. Sie sind Teil unserer Kultur. Sie sorgen für Ernährungssicherheit. Und deshalb sind wir alle stolz auf sie. Deshalb müssen wir gemeinsam die Probleme angehen, die auf ihnen lasten. Sie spüren den Klimawandel. Extremwetter und Wasserknappheit setzen ihnen von Jahr zu Jahr mehr zu. Europa erwärmt sich doppelt so schnell wie der globale Durchschnitt. Wir sehen die verheerenden Auswirkungen bereits auf Feldern und in Wäldern. Das heißt, das Gesicht auch unserer ländlichen Gemeinden verändert sich. Wir müssen mehr tun, um mit der Landwirtschaft uns besser darauf vorzubereiten, was durch den Klimawandel auf uns zukommt. Und deshalb werde ich einen Plan für die Landwirtschaft vorlegen, um die nötige Anpassung an den Klimawandel zu bewältigen und parallel eine Strategie zum nachhaltigen Umgang mit der kostbaren Ressource Wasser. Nicht nur unsere Ernährungssicherheit hängt davon ab, sondern auch unsere gesamte Wettbewerbsfähigkeit. Es ist Zeit, dass wir diese Aufgabe beherzt angehen. Honourable members, our quality of life and our very social fabric are unique. We made historic steps forward on our pillar of social rights, with minimum wages to the first ever child guarantee, just to name a few. During the pandemic, we saved 40 million jobs with SURE, and we can be very proud of it. But many new challenges have emerged, from the impact of AI to mental health at work and new drivers of poverty. So we need a new action plan for the implementation of the pillar. We must ensure fair transitions and good working conditions for workers and self-employed people. And crucial for that is social dialogue, the hallmark of our social market economy. We will therefore work to increase collective bargaining and strengthen the European dialogue, and we will address those issues that Europeans feel the most in their daily lives. Take housing. Europe faces a housing crisis, with people of all age and families of all size affected. Prices and rents are soaring. People are struggling to find affordable homes. This is why, for the first time, I will appoint a commissioner with a direct responsibility for the topic of housing. We will develop a European affordable housing plan to look at all the drivers of the crisis and to help unlock private and public investment needed. Typically, housing is not seen as a European issue. Some might say we should not get involved. But I want this Commission to support people where it matters most, and if it matters to Europeans, then it matters to Europe. Honourable Member, this is how we can strengthen our society. This means ensuring that every region in every part of Europe is supported. No one is left behind. I am committed to a strong cohesion policy designed together with regions and local authorities. I want Europe to be the best place to grow up in and the best place to grow old in. We must enable young people to make the most of Europe's freedom, from a stronger Erasmus+ to more citizens' engagement. But we must also protect young people. Childhood and teenage years are the time when our character is formed, our personality develops, our brain is shaped by triggers and emotions. So this is an amazing time of development, but also a time of real vulnerability. And we see more and more reporting on what some call a mental health crisis. I believe that social media and excessive screen time and addictive practices have played their part. And I must tell you, my heart bleeds when I read about young people harming themselves or even taking their lives because of online abuse. I think of those last moments and the pain they must have felt. I think of their parents and their friends, and this is devastating. So, honourable members, we can never accept this in our society. We will tackle the plague of cyberbullying. We will take action against addictive design of some platforms, and we will convene the first ever European-wide inquiry on the impact of social media on the well-being of young people. We owe it to them, and we will not rest until we've done right to them. And honourable members, one of the most fundamental choices we face is exactly what kind of societies we want for our children and grandchildren, and in particular for our daughters and granddaughters. On women's rights, we have achieved together the unthinkable, thanks to the amazing solidarity in this House of European democracy across all party lines. After 10 years of struggle, we have unblocked the Women on Boards Directive. We have achieved huge progress on pay transparency. And let me tell you, there's not the slightest argument and reason why women should get paid less for the same work than men. But there's still so much to do. Stop the rise in violence against women, reconcile care and career, actually not only for women, but women are mostly affected. Close the pay and pensions gap, because it is no coincidence that poverty in old age has a female face. And there's so much more to do. So let's work together to develop a roadmap for women's rights. Let's keep moving forward. If not now, when then?